listened to people, telling or briefing here, I always wonder about how they got to where they were, and I thought it'd be something that we could do here too as well. So I'm super excited about sharing that with you, and then we'll kind of wrap up today's session with a Q&A. Okay, so with that, let's get started. I think they were driving and then I took over, so I'm sorry, you guys can take back over. So I work with Accenture, and I stumbled around into Accenture about 9 years ago, quite honestly, from a LinkedIn ping. Like there was a ping in LinkedIn. It seemed like a really cool opportunity, and I was like, well, let's give it a go. I come from a background in a Big Four firm with an accounting and information systems background. And so I wanted to give it a go with consulting and try and use my accounting good in the world of consulting, especially around technology. Accenture Federal Services is much different than what we have at Accenture. And they're two different entities. One being that Accenture Federal Services is actually a wholly owned subsidiary of our LLP practice. And the reason why they do that is because Accenture is foreign owned. And so we're based out of Ireland. And for us to be able to do federal government work for our government agencies here in the DC metropolitan area, we have to separate ourselves from that foreign owned government and do work solely within the United States. So Accenture is a huge organization that spans internationally, while Accenture Federal Services, a majority of our nearly 10,000 employees are right here in the contiguous United States. I think it's really fun that I get to have different calls and I'm talking, and sometimes I just have to level set when I talk to Ray, who's in California, or our cyber incident team who's in Hawaii, or even our SOC operations group that's sitting in San Antonio. Just kind of level setting about, wow, we're national and we're doing great things across the entire country for our federal government. Specifically within federal services, we've kind of structured ourselves to do specific things related to strategy and consulting, interactive work, think your digital platforms and things like that, technology, and then operations. But we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like a few slides further. Okay. So when we talk about Accenture Federal Services, like I said, this makes up the nearly 10,000 people that are sitting all across the country. I love the fact that Accenture is super intentional about who they choose to work with them. Not only do we work and identify veterans to come and support our U.S. government, we're really intentional about going into schools as well. We have lots of kind of internship programs, if you will, even at the high school level, where we're introducing people to Accenture and the consulting services we do right from the very beginning. We do an amazing job like that, a job with that. What I love about Accenture Federal Services is that we sit and we do awesome work across all 15 cabinet level departments. And that's kind of like I would say it's a big deal. And it's really cool that we're able to do a lot of modernization of the technology, not only bringing things up to speed, if you will, like some of the big work like I'm doing at Department of Energy, but we also get to bring some innovation to these groups. So when I think about the work that we're doing in the mission for the within the Intel community, we're being really intentional about some of the technologies that we're providing to them, and we're using things like building chatbots on their behalf so that they can use some of the latest technology that we see even more when we're working every day in some of the more commercial things that we do. Now, within Accenture, we break down the work within federal services into 3 different client portfolios. So those 15 sectors, if you will, are kind of broken up into what you see here on the screen. We do work within defense. So that's things like all of our our military agencies. We have work where we're supporting and helping modernize their IT. We also work within the intelligence community. This aligns with Department of Defense as well. So if you're an individual that perhaps has a security clearance and you're doing or interested in work within the within the intelligence sector, we do work at almost all of the agencies within the intel sector. We also work within the civilian portfolio. Now, the civilian portfolio is businesses that like Postal Service or Department of Interior, or even groups like Amtrak and Healthcare.gov. One of the cool things that I remember from, oh gosh, maybe about when I first started with Accenture was when they were about to roll out Healthcare.gov. Like it or not, at the end of the day, it was a huge system that had huge, even bigger impacts across the federal government. And it was really cool when we first took on this work. We took it because I guess the original or the incumbent person that was supposed to roll out healthcare.gov, it was just too big for them. Accenture was able to use kind of what we have in our Accenture Federal Services kind of pocket, and then reach back over to our sister company, LLP, get awesome technologies and make healthcare.gov go live. And the claim to fame for that group is they can remember, like as soon as they went live, like within that first month of going live, they were in a regular status meeting using just regular technology that they did. And there was an interruption. And the coolest thing about that, and I love telling this story when I tell people about Accenture, was that the president at the time, President Barack Obama, actually came into the status meeting at the time and thanked the team for the hard work that they did. I love hearing stories like that, not only from people as important as the President of the United States, but also thinking about the work that we're doing to defend our country, to protect our country, and to provide services to our country through the technologies that we're implementing across these portfolios is nothing short of amazing. And when you stop to think about the mission and the work that's behind that mission, I think it's great. Now, diving a little bit deeper into the work that we're doing within Accenture, I'm going to actually start on I don't know what side it is for you, but I'm going to go to this side of the screen and kind of talk to you a little bit about the services that we provide to our customers across the board. That management consulting is really kind of like strategy work that we're doing. This is work where we get to sit with the client and we're meeting with the client face to face or the customer face to face within each of these organizations, be it energy or Amtrak or within the Intel, and we're trying to help them design what they want the future of their services to be, what they want their businesses to look like. Maybe we're sitting next to a CIO and we're trying to provide innovation for that CIO shop, right? So within management consulting, what we're doing is we're really kind of putting our thinking caps on and helping strategize. We have an amazing design thinking group. It's like a think tank where they're coming up with and they're pontificating on the latest strategies, the latest technologies that are out there, and how we can easily integrate these things in. So it's not really tech focused, but we have tech talk, if you will, about how we do these amazing things and what the vision of a CIO might look like and how we can bring that vision to life. Hopping over into the next sector, operations, a lot of times, and what we'll talk about a little bit when we deep dive into the risk management framework, is what we find is that across the federal government, they're not really like coming up with new technology too often, right? This isn't your Nike or your Marriott or even, your cruise line where they're looking for the newest and most innovative technology to bring to their customer base. Generally speaking, these are huge, maybe original mainframe systems where we need to make sure that at the end of the day, these things don't break, right? We want to make sure that they're up, they're working, and they can do what what they're intended to do, either on the back end or within the mission. And so this is what our operations group does, right? They are doing things from making sure that break fix is happening on a routine basis, that we're putting in the latest patches and installing, that we're routinely monitoring for vulnerabilities and different types of threats and things of that nature. So that's kind of what our operations group does, is really kind of make sure that the lights stay on that we intend to have on. And then finally, the group that I'm aligned to, the technology group, I think this is the most fun group, right? Although management consulting might beg to differ that they get to just make the stuff up. This is the real fun stuff. This is where we're actually taking those latest technologies, anything from AI and its smart bots to 5G, and we're trying to implement those technologies into our customer bases, right? And we get to see lots of cool things. We get to literally create with a whiteboard all of the amazing stuff that's happening and ask the question, well, what if we did it this way? Obviously within the realms of a contract that's initiated by the federal government. That's kind of what we're doing in the technology practice. Now within technology, we get a little bit deeper and we go into the cybersecurity capability where I'm aligned along with 400 other folks within our cyber professional group. And what we do is we have over 20 domains where we're doing 3 different types of work, right? So we're doing things on the front end of a system where we're actually perhaps building, or perhaps we're deploying something, or perhaps we're trying to protect it either from an internal threat hunting or external threat hunting. All of those are happening across the 20 domains that are our cybersecurity capability. What we're going to do, my history and background is aligned to the mission assurance domain. Folks also like to call this domain information assurance or government governance, risk, and compliance. We're going to zoom into this portion of our cybersecurity capability and learn a little bit more about how that risk management framework applies and the types of work that we can do within this mission assurance domain when it comes to the 6 steps of the RMF. But first, I'll pause. Are there any questions about Accenture or anything that we've talked about so far? No pressure. Okay. I will put a plug in for if you're interested in learning more about Accenture or the things that we have in store that we're doing across the federal government. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, shoot me a chat. If you're interested in learning more about the work that we're doing in terms of recruiting, I believe there was a forms that was sent out before this session where if you put your name in that forms, we can have recruiters actually intentionally reach out to you to have conversations about things that might be of interest to you when it comes to Accenture. But with that, let's move on. Okay. So the risk management framework is really just a set of criteria that dictates how government IT systems have to be created, secured, and monitored, right? They've come up with 6 steps to do that. And what we'll do is we'll walk through each one of those steps, again, really at a high level. And then we'll talk about some of the cool things that Accenture is doing with this standardized kind of methodology when it comes to this information assurance or governance and risk assurance section of it, if you will. The first step is categorizing systems. So from the get-go, whether or not you're creating like a brand new system or you're kind of modernizing a current system that's out there, you should know that most systems within the federal government already kind of exist, but they have some rules. There's lots of compliance rules with systems that exist within the federal government, and they have to follow these rules for when they develop and they architect and they secure these types of systems. While it's very rare that we would be creating new information systems from the ground up, the risk management framework is designed so that anytime we need to get to a new version of our system, we have to go through this risk management framework to ensure that we're following basically all the federal government rules that are out there. We'll talk a little bit about what this means in kind of a DevSecOps environment, but generally speaking, whether or not you're doing this very singularly, one step at a time, or if you're doing it kind of in a continuous loop, if you will, these 6 steps have to be applied in some way, shape, or form. I see a question. I will come back to that question, Alex, in just a second. So as far as categorizing, this is the first step within the RMF framework where you are really kind of determining what kind of system you're trying to either design or update, right? And what the risk factors are and things that you need to consider as you make this system go live, if you will, right? So you're looking at and you're kind of really doing like an initial risk assessment for the system before you even, make your first code, if you will, or write your first code. You're considering and you're categorizing the system based on the current level of threat or risk that you have. When you come out of that categorization, there's all different ways that you do it, but the baseline for all categorization is guidance under FIPS 199. At the end of the day, it normally takes a couple weeks to do this categorization for a system. You'll make a determination on the risk level of the system that you want to implement or update, and it'll either be low, moderate, or high. Once you've made that determination and have categorized your system and determined the risk level associated with it, you're going to select security controls. And again, this is from the mission assurance point of view, where you're responsible for making sure that you have security controls in place that not only comply with federal government rules and regulations or policies that are out there, but are also going to make sure that when that system goes live, you're making the system, you're securing the system in a way where you're considering all these different types of security controls. When you dive a little bit deeper in, there are 18 control families that we use as the basis of selecting security controls. So whether you're determining whether you want to consider or beef up your access controls or perhaps your incident response controls, or even like ad hoc things such as privacy controls, you select the security controls that are going to meet the risk that you've assessed during categorization. The third step of the process is to actually implement the security controls. So as you build the system or as you support or work with engineers that are building the system on your behalf or on behalf of the federal government, you're making sure that not only do you have your documentation in place, like a system security plan, if you will, in place, and different types of ad hoc documents to make sure that you're running and routinely updating a system accordingly, you're also building that with the awareness of what you're trying to mitigate, right? At the point that you've created like the baseline system or with the set of controls that are in place, it then comes time to step four, assess those security controls. And one of the things that I actually did in one of my first roles within the information assurance domain was really kind of in this assess phase where within the Intel community, I was responsible for, I think there was 17 systems that had to undergo like financial statement review that we were responsible for making sure were kind of good to go before they went through this financial review, before it went through this audit. We were responsible for really just kind of taking the rules that were out there, and this is NIST guidance that's out there, and ensuring that the security controls that were originally selected were actually not only documented, but appropriately and in place, and that they would do what they were designed to do, right? So if there were access controls in place, are those access controls really doing what they're supposed to do? When I enter my password wrong 3 times in a row, is the system really going to lock me out for 15 minutes, or is it going to let me enter my password a fourth, a fifth, and sixth time um, incorrectly? What does it do? And so as part of that assessment, we're trying to make sure that not only have we documented what those security controls are, but we're kind of testing and making sure that those security controls really are working. We would hate for a system to be live and for there to be easy breaks, if you will, or easy ways to access the system because we didn't consider different types of controls when it comes to how we change a system, how we audit a system, how we access a system. Next is the authorized systems step in the risk management framework. Within authorized, you're working with a group of individuals to ensure that, again, that assessment that you've completed is good and good to go, and it's really meeting all the criteria that are out there and that are that you're required to meet from a security perspective. So this is called getting to ATO or getting through ATO. I like to say it like that, where you're trying to get an authority to operate your system on a financial statement government network. And a lot of times what happens is as you go through this authorization process, your security control assessors or people that are going to assess your systems to make sure that they're good to go will find minor things that may, while they may not impede your authority to operate, they may be better things that you should consider as you go through year over year different rounds of how you're making sure that you update your system. They input that stuff and they document that stuff on what's called a POAM, or Plan of Actions and Milestones, where a group of individuals that are monitoring and are responsible for the system are making sure that they're continuously monitoring step 6, how these things are being implemented, and making sure that they're implemented in an appropriate way. Now, the cool thing about this risk management framework is that at Accenture, we recognize that going through these steps, if you're going through it kind of in a singular fashion, or if you're going through it in a DevSecOps where you're continuously going through this day in and day out, from a mission assurance perspective, it's kind of antiquated. It's antiquated and it's a little labor intensive, right? You're doing lots of work. There's tons of paperwork involved for something where there's not really that many changes from a paperwork perspective. And now what we're doing within our mission assurance frame, within our mission assurance domain, within the cyber capability,
Hey, Nicole,
okay,
you're on mute.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So we found some really cool ways to automate some of these inefficiencies that we were seeing.
Are you on mute?
So it says that the host keeps muting me. I just want to make sure that we're good to go. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. All right, let's keep going. Accenture has found some really cool ways to automate this mission assurance implementation of the RMF through some chatbots, some automation through the ANA process to kind of reduce or minimize the labor intensiveness that we're seeing as we go through these 6 steps of the framework. Any questions? I actually see a couple in the chat that I will address now, but any questions from anybody that wants to come off their mic? Okay.
Actually, I did have a question.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if Accenture uses like something called the cybersecurity maturity model, the CMMC model, when they're implementing like these frameworks and just the continuous steps.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Depending on which federal government we're aligned to, plus the contracts and how we sign those contracts, more often than not, we absolutely use the CMMC model. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay, from Alex in the chat, it says, do you need a government clearance before applying to a role? While it's preferred, you don't need a government clearance. Not all of our roles require government clearances. And again, if you fill out that form that's tied to today's session, we can get you in contact with our recruiting team, and they can show you either they can show you or at least bring you into light with roles that require clearances and those that don't require clearances. Okay. Toby is asking, what determines the risk level category of the system built? Is it the sensitivity of data to be stored within the system? Spot on, Toby. That's exactly, that's one of the components. They also look at who has access to data, where the data will be stored, how it's going to be communicated and shared with other people. All of those play a factor in the categorization of a system. Excellent question. What implementation controls are you using? This is STIG, SIS, or NSA. All of these, this is from BIC. These are all being implemented depending again on the agency that we're working with. All of these, I've seen all of them happen within our security sector. Great questions. What else? Okay. So this is a little bit about, this is really generic. You could probably, again, happy to zoom in. We wanted to keep this a little high level just because while I have a mission assurance kind of frame of mind going through the framework, there's people that are more technical, right? And they're looking at this from maybe the implement perspective where they're the actual engineer and they're coding the work. I'm looking at it from a security perspective, just that's just because that's where I come from, the baseline that I'm coming from. What we did want to do though is with that same that same risk management framework is kind of talk to you a little bit about the jobs and roles that are out there. Some of the common things that I'm seeing as I work with our recruiting team to staff to some of our cybersecurity roles within the mission assurance framework are security control assessors, an information systems security officer or an ISO or an ISI. When you talk about some of the more technical things, I don't want you to be impeded just because I put mission assurance type roles on here. We do everything. We do the full gamut. So if you work in the SOC, there's tons of layers of SOC work that we do all across the country. If you're more of a threat intel person, I actually just sat in on a really cool session with our threat intel group. But again, across all different platforms within cyber, there's probably, if you're doing it currently or if you're thinking about doing it, we probably have a domain where we really just call it your home room, where you go with your group of people that are doing that same piece of work to learn more to do the work within the particular government agency that we're working in. Some of the key certifications that I see that are really common, especially within for folks that are just getting their feet wet within the cybersecurity practice, is that Security Plus exam and that CIS exam, especially within mission assurance. But then the big one is always the CISP. That's always great to have. Okay, so Winifred is asking in the chat, do you need any certifications to work in this area? You don't. You absolutely don't. I think that, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we go into my journey line, I think that whatever you do should be led with passion, but you do not need any experience. We can help train you. There are all different types of levels of work within cyber. Great question. Yes, awesome. There's the form. Make sure you fill it out if you're interested in learning more. I love your question. Idris asked, how do you handle breaches? Within each federal government contract, we handle breaches a little bit differently. So depending on what the contract says, there's someone, we call them a client data protector champion, at least one client data protector champion assigned to each piece of work that Accenture does. This person is responsible for understanding what the contractual security requirements are, and then what the requirements are from a federal government perspective. It could be that the federal government says, hey, if there's a security breach and you guys are working in my SOC, you got to tell me about it within 60 minutes. That's different than someone who's like, we only care about if you tell me about it in 24 hours. So it's really important that the basis of that client data protection champion's role is in the contract. So we put a client data protector champion, if you will, on every contract. But the cool thing is Accenture, and I won't give too much of our secret sauce away, but we have this humongous client data protection program where we're training all 10,000 of those employees within Accenture about what it looks like to protect client data. And there is literally a full corporate internal team who's doing lots of things related to handling breaches and making sure that people understand what the requirements are and how we communicate and work with our clients when breaches happen, and what we're supposed to do from an Accenture perspective. So it's a loaded answer to a simple question, but this is the sweet spot. This is actually the work that I enjoy doing the most. We do a lot when it comes to ensuring that breaches don't happen. So Aunt M asks, what soft skills do you believe a new entrant should have, especially on your team? If you were coming to work for me, more than anything, I want to know that you're passionate about working within the cybersecurity field. A lot of times I run into people who are just trying to make money. I mean, we're all working, we're all in corporate, kind of a corporate environment to make money, but you're not going to be successful not unless you lead with passion. So more than anything, I want to see that you're hungry for the work that you're doing. If you were to come to work in the cybersecurity practice, I believe the passion that you have for anything will fuel your desire to want to learn and to be great on your job? Great question, Ann. Okay, Kareem is asking, what is the work-life balance with remote work? It's what you make it. And I want to, we'll dive into this a little bit more when we go through the journey line. But what I've found for me is so long as I know what my priorities are, I understand that there will be surges of work when it's required of me, but every day isn't like that. And while tonight I might work until 7 or 7:30 because this is the priority for today, tomorrow I might put my pencil down at 5 o'clock because my kid wants to play, I don't know, some game, or he may want me to watch him play Minecraft. I think that's the game of choice these days. It's what you make it, and we have amazing people advisors or HRPOCs where you can work with them to one, figure out what your roles look like and what your role is going to look like. And then we have lots of mentors and coaches to kind of help you manage expectations for the work that you're working on with your particular supervisor on a given day. Okay. Idris asks, how long does a project usually last? That depends. There's some short-term work. Maybe we're going in and we're doing some management consulting work where the CISO just wants Accenture to come in and invite them into a design studio for 6 months so that he can kind of shape the way he has a vision for a CIO operation. Or it could be we win a contract and we're responsible for all the SOC operations for a period of 5 to 7 years. It just depends. I've seen both happen. Okay, Kareem's asking, what are the team sizes usually like? It depends. I've worked on a team as small as 3 people where we were implementing what's called internal use software within the Intel sector for a portion of a CIO. And my latest role with Department of Energy has 1,000 people, and I'm responsible for security operations for the entire project. I love your questions. Let's see here. Winnie is asking, what are the growth potentials with your organization? How quickly can you grow? I think that always ties back to passion in my mind. I am going to move over into the journey line portion of this because every story is different, and because you sometimes people think that their story is unique and that people are discriminating is a hard word, but people aren't treating them fairly perhaps. And what I've found as I listen to other people tell stories and listen to other journey lines is that we all have ups and downs in our career, and so long as you continue to put your best foot forward and be intentional about what you want to do, I think that you can be successful. Accenture's done a great job. I thought I was going to be at Accenture for literally, hey, I'm just going to go over there, check out consulting for a couple of years, and then I'm going back to my Big Four firm. I love my Big Four firm. They did amazing by me, and I want to go back. It's been 9 years, and I'm still here because they continue to put me in great opportunities to help me grow and stretch me. Oh, I love your questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to the journey line and just give you 10 minutes of a spiel. Hopefully we can, if we go, I'll just share really quickly and then we'll come back to the questions because these are great questions. And I'm more than happy to like stick around for 10 or 15 minutes afterwards if we need to. Okay. This is my favorite quote. On good days, it's keep going no matter what. On bad days, it's keep going no matter what. It's from Reggie Lewis. He's an African-American businessman, first billion-dollar company within the United States. Today's actually his birthday. It's completely random fact, but keep going no matter what. You know what your goals are. You know what your priorities are. And I would challenge you to don't let one company or one person stifle you from the things that you desire for yourself. So this is a lot. I know it's a lot. This is a journey line. We do these a lot at Accenture. This is really kind of, hey, this is what my story looks like. And this is how I got to where I was. People, I think there was a question about, well, how did you get, what's the opportunity for advancement look like? This is a 2-page journey line. I don't know if these slides will be shared at the end of this, but you're more than welcome to share and think through this. If that makes the most sense, I can share this out. But really, it's just a story from the point that I graduated, and the second page shows the second half of my career about what it looked like. And the thought is that you can see the ups and downs of my career. and it's from an educational perspective. So wherever you see, oh, uh-oh, I think I messed something up. Wherever you see, I'm trying to get over here, like a little target here, this was a really key lesson that I learned in my life. So I'm going to spend 7 minutes going through this snapshot, just this, snapshot of time. um, if we were to do a whole hour, I would walk you through my whole hour and do all 10 lessons learned throughout my career. But I think that this might kind of at least share with you a little bit about the ups and downs of a journey. And if you're in a down, it doesn't mean that you're going to be in that down always. Across the bottom of the screen, you can see what are my top 5. Accenture does a really good job right when you come in of saying, hey, we want to know what your strengths are. Take this, they've paid for everybody to take this Strengths Finder quiz if you haven't taken it before, for you to understand what you're really good at. And then on the other end of that is like what you could work on. But their thoughts are, hey, we don't want you to get better with the things that you really suck at. We want you to continue to do really good at the things that you're really good at. So for me, that's an activator. I'm an activator, meaning like I just like to get things done. The next two related to intellection and input. I love data, which is probably why this slide looks like it does. And I love making decisions based on the most amount of data possible. So that could also serve as a weakness, right? If you're waiting too long for data to come around. Next is analytical. I am an analytical thinker and achiever. I want to be the best at whatever I do. Okay. So what I wanted to share with you a little bit is when I first got to my role at USDA, I was an auditor. So think like information assurance. We're just trying to apply a group of like a list of things to do against things that you need to do. And if they don't match, we need to let you know the things that don't match, and you guys got to go out and fix them. I remember working with a senior manager at the time. I think I was an analyst or a senior analyst within my Big Four firm. And I had a question. Somebody was trying to do something, and I was trying to figure out an answer to a question. So I went into my senior manager's office and I was like, I don't understand the question. And it was so simple. He stopped what he was doing, he got to the whiteboard, and he said, tell me the question again. And as I was telling him the scenario or the question, I don't really remember what it is now, he was literally writing out the question as I was saying it, so that when he wrote it out, it was so much more clear and I was able to answer the question based on him writing it out. So the lesson I learned that day at USDA was that, hey, sometimes things don't make sense. Like maybe somebody will ask a question. For me, that's literally picking up a pen as someone's writing out the question. I think someone asked about CMMC earlier, and I'm literally writing as you go so that I can visually see what I'm trying to answer. That was a really lifelong lesson that stuck with me even till today. You'll see that when I was at USDA, I was pregnant and I had a miscarriage, and I'm happy to talk with any moms offline about what that meant and what that looked like for me in the workplace. It was very hard and challenging, but right after that, I did give birth to my first son, Wathan the fourth. And I was super excited because this was a very challenging pregnancy. And so the first day back, when I came back to work, I was super excited. I was working with a partner at the time, and I was like, I'm back. And it was a female partner. And I remember going in, and the first thing that this partner said to me in this counseling session before I went back out into the field was, did you have any time to study for any certifications while you were out of the office? And I was like, whoa, out of the office? Like I was having a kid. Like that's not out of the office. Like, and it hurt my feelings. It hurt me a lot. But I learned a lot because the next thing that she said was, Nicole, you need to learn what your priorities are and make sure that you always move with those priorities in mind. And so I said that 15 minutes ago, right? While I do think that she was trying to make sure that my priorities may have been aligned with what her priorities were, I took that time to think about what they meant to me, and where work fell in line when it came to my faith, my family, and the things that are important to me. So I was able to use that time, and to this day, like I did that way back in 2006, to that day, I make every decision based on my priorities. And it makes things a little bit easier. So when my kid is having a crazy day in virtual learning and I'm ready to throw his computer and my computer out the window, I can go back and I can look at that and be like, you know what? These are my priorities. I have the ability to cancel my 8:30 so that we can sit down and zoom into what he needs to do, because that's the priority that's important to me at the time. The next bullet here is really when I was working at DEA. And I'm going to move a little bit quicker because we're coming up on time, and I do want to make sure that you guys are able to ask the questions that you have. So let me see here what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip. Again, more than happy if you see something here that resonates with you, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn and let me know. I'm happy to help you. I'm going to move over and skip the next two bullets and focus on OD&I. Now you can see right before that low point where I was passed up for promotion at OD&I, I had kind of a stagnant neutral phase where I had just been transferred to the consulting practice at my firm, and I was just doing the work, right? I was working my butt off. I was learning how to consult, but it wasn't exciting work. There was nothing new. I didn't really, feel like I had great sponsorship from my leaders. And so when it came time to get promoted, it was between me and another person, and I got passed up, and it hurt so bad. But when I stepped back from it, I remember meeting with a mentor, and they basically said, "Well, how long have you been in this role, Nicole?" And I had been in this role for 5, 6 years. And that person told me, hey, you should be self assessing every 4 years. No matter what you're doing, no matter what role you're in, no matter where your career takes you need to look up every 4 years and determine whether or not you're getting what you need from your current position, role, or company. And if that's not the case, you need to move. When they told me that, I absolutely moved, and that's where I responded to that link, that LinkedIn approach, that LinkedIn message from Accenture, and I actually went on to get hired at Accenture, where I am today. Okay. Um, so I'm going to turn the floor back over to you. This is the second half of my career. It looks a little bit crazy. Again, it was a great activity. If you're kind of self-assessing your own self, this is a great activity for you to perhaps consider doing for yourself, just to kind of figure out where your ups and downs are and what you're looking for. I will say that I am currently on a high note. I have a new role within Accenture. They just asked me to lead the cyber operations practice within our cyber capability, and it's hard, but it's really fun, and I'm super excited about where it's going to take me. Okay. Just a couple of key takeaways. We talked about drawing things out. We talked about figuring out your priorities, and then we talked about that fifth one on the left-hand side, self-assessing every 4 years. Again, more than happy to sit here and have a conversation with anybody who's willing about what your career might look like or what you want to do. But with that, what I'm going to do is show you my family. That's my husband. He's a pretty amazing dude. That is my bonus son, Micah, that stepson. When I got married, he was 6 years old, and we've been hanging out ever since. He's 23 now. That is my next son, who has the track. This is pre-COVID. He runs track. He's pretty good at it. He's in the 9th grade now. And there's my baby boy, Brooks, who is 13. Um, he's a piece of work. God bless me. I think I have 2 teenagers and I don't know what I'm doing. And there are my kids when they went out with their Aunt Tiffany this past summer over to Black Lives Matter Plaza. Those are my Black boys. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to turn this back over. We're not going to stare at this for the rest. I'm just going to stop sharing if that's okay, and open up the chat. Michaela, I think I lost part of the chat because I did something in Zoom. So I don't know where I left off. Ooh.
No
Let's
problem.
see here. With the questions. I'm trying to get back to the last question I answered. I think it was this one from Kareem. And I'm just going to keep answering until 7 o'clock, and then we'll come up for Aaron. Michaela, let me know if there's something we need to do more or less. So Kareem asks, pre-COVID, was there a lot of travel? For me, again, thinking back to my priorities, it was a priority for me not to travel. I wanted to be with my kids, but you can get on a really cool roll. I have a mentee that's actually on Department of State. She went to Abu Dhabi this past summer. I was like, what? That's amazing. Well, summer before last. And she did some training over there. They were rolling out a new system within Department of State. Department of State's international. She had to go to Abu Dhabi, and she spent a little bit of extra time there and took some personal time off. So it is what you make it. More oftentimes than not, Accenture Federal does not have many travel opportunities, although there are some. Okay. Awesome. So I'm going to go off, I think Dare, or I want to say it's Dare, asked, I'm interested in the identity asset management space. What is that like at Accenture and what catches a hiring manager's eye? Um, I am not in that space, so I'm not sure what would catch their eye, but we do have a domain specifically tied to identity asset management. And if you reach out through that forms link, our recruiters can tell you about any kind of open work that we have related to that. Cool thing is we have won, or I think I'm allowed to say this, there was a press release, we just won a huge amount of work at a couple of different agencies. And they are looking for some pretty particular roles. So I would, again, reach out through that forums link and talk directly with the recruiter about opportunities related to IAM. Okay. This next question comes from G Best, and my maiden name is actually Best. That's pretty cool. Are there any opportunities to get involved in proposal work with Accenture? Yes, we need you, we love you, we want you. Apart from the delivery work, so when I say delivery work, I mean the work that you're doing for a federal government client, there is a whole machine that works with business development and ensuring that as we are, that we're shaping and being intentional about the work that we want to do and the technologies that we want to employ across the federal government. So to answer your question, yes, there is always room for you to help out with proposals. There are roles, although this team is not hiring specifically for roles within our kind of like internal operations group that would do BD work. If you are part of the cyber practice and you speak up and let folks know, we're more than happy to get you plugged in with the right people to do that type of work. Oh, Javier, thank you so much for asking this because I forgot to mention it in the training slide. I'm actually going to go back for my own purposes and get to it so I can share it. Yes, there is training available. Accenture, hold on, I got excited and I went too fast. We have some awesome skills. Like I talked to you about mission assurance, but Accenture has invested significantly in training our teams around the most relevant skills. So when it comes to Forescout, Azure, Sentinel, Splunk, Palo Alto, all of those things, there is a budget and they are intentional about making sure that we train our cyber practitioners with the latest skills. So yes, to answer your question, when it comes to training, we are very intentional about making sure that we not only select people to attend trainings, but if you have a specific training desire that you want, you can work with your career counselor and your direct supervisor to seek out that training in any way platform. The one thing that I love about Accenture is while there's career journeys and paths for you to follow, like, hey, if you're, a SOC analyst and you want to get to, running a SOC one day, you can take a career path to get there. But if you're a SOC analyst and you want to learn about threat intelligence, barring some high level things, I don't want to make it carte blanche, you can do that. You can, with the right justification, say, I kind of want to learn a little bit more about, or I want to get certified here to kind of help me, and you provide the right business justification, and we can do that within the cyber practice. So yes, tons of training opportunities within Accenture Cyber. Kareem asked, should a resume be only one page? For everybody's sake, yes. Do you recommend writing a cover letter for an applicant? I don't know. So I know we have a recruiter on the line. Ehud, can you come off mute and share a little bit more if you are able to? I put him on the spot, so I don't know if he can or not.
Hi, Nicole. It's Nancy
Oh,
Francica. Yeah,
awesome.
I think Ehud might have had
Oh,
to drop.
awesome. Thank you.
Cover letters, there's two ways to look at them. I think sometimes with a cover letter, it gives me a little bit more in depth of who the person is as opposed to what you do. The resume tells me what you do. The cover letter can tell me a little bit about who you are. It is never necessary, and I don't want anybody to think it is. It's not, but As a recruiter, I probably don't look at it as strongly as I should, but when I do read them, I always find that they tend to give me a little bit more insight of who the person is. And that's great to know when I go to call somebody, get a sense of them.
Thank you, Nancy. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Good deal. Let's see, I lost my spot again. Where am I? Hold on. You guys are rolling. Let's see here. So Vanari has asked, has there been a time when you needed Mandarin speakers? Nancy, this might be a better question for you too. I haven't seen anything, but I think the world is our oyster. Any insight there, Nancy?
Honestly, not for Accenture Federal, but definitely for Accenture LLP. They do hire people that are Mandarin speakers, only because we deal so directly with the U.S. government, and they have their own interpreters and stuff. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
It's good. Good question. Toby is asking, what about the EC Council CEH cert? Are there roles for those who want to pursue that certification at Accenture? Yes, there are roles. I actually saw a role come through just today. Well, a certification request come through today for that. Yes, that is available. Kareem, is there a coding assessment for applicants? Nancy, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I think I have the answer, but I want to make sure.
No, there's not like we have a filled out assessment. You're assessed basically by, let me explain something with Accenture that is a little bit different. There is more than one recruiter you speak to. And that is because we have recruiters that are doing the sourcing and speak to you and really can address that particular position. I am what they call a client-facing recruiter, so I deal more with the hiring manager and what they want and what they're looking for and what the program is. So you will hear first from the market-facing recruiter, and then you would hear from me or somebody like me, scheduling your interviews, telling you a little bit more about the project, what the hiring manager expects, what you expect in the interview. I always try to keep an interview to be more of a conversation than a, here's a question, here's an answer, here's a question, here's an answer. So that's what we try to do to make you feel comfortable and let you know when you get ready to do that interview, what the person's going to be like, what type of interviewer they are.
Okay, great. Thanks, y'all. I see the congrats. Thanks. My family's beautiful. I think they are too. We are at the top of the hour. I want to open the floor back up over to our to BIC. I'm not sure what you want to do. I am available for another 10 minutes. I can go until 7:10 if there's additional questions.
I believe that there's plenty of questions that you've answered, so feel free to continue.
Yay, okay. We'll take another pause at 7:10 and see how it's going. All right, so looks like Lakeisha is asking, do you recommend any skills assessment that anyone can access that can help define one's strengths and weaknesses? I'm pretty sure that StrengthsFinder, it's one word, is like there's a version of it that might be available online. Or, another good way that you could do this is really just ask, right? I remember my best friends are probably like over me, but I do remember like asking, hey, well, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think I'm not good at? And being just open to like what the critique looked like. You could do that, in a personal setting, or you could do it within, like a corporate setting and a little bit more of a formalized, sector. But anything free, I don't know of anything free. You might be able to scour the internet to find something free, but yeah, just try self-assessment. Well, assessment with your peers. From BIC, from the group, is it possible to be hired without a degree? Nancy, I think I didn't ask if you were available, but
Yes, it is. It really and truly is. And just because I saw this question up there, that as far as Accenture helping with graduate school, the one thing we don't help with is continuing education as far as schooling goes. We do with every kind of convention there is out there, every kind of certification out there, every kind of new what's new, what's great, what's happening in the world, and especially with cybersecurity. I think, Nicole, you know for a fact we have a cybersecurity teams that they are just popping up left and right almost every other day. Hey, this is new, this is great, read up on it, or here's a great tech talk or this. So we're constantly filling you in that way, but we do not pay for higher education. So yes, since we don't, obviously you do not need a degree to get a position.
Awesome. And then there was another one related to degrees from overseas. Do we hire with degrees from overseas?
Yes, and here's the one little pain in the neck about that. Is there a background check? It just takes a little bit longer to get your background check when you have a degree from overseas, but that has never stopped us from hiring someone.
Awesome. Yeah, I love non-travel. I think the first part of my career, I actually did travel a lot, Winnie. When I had my first kid, I think when my kid was 1, that's when I stopped. I slowed down a little bit. But yep, there's minimal travel. Santiago, can you obtain a role within security with no, with no degree? So we said that. Idris, does Accenture help with grant? No, okay. Darnell, I'm interested in performing incident response. Okay, cool. Would someone with an IT support background, Security Plus cert and bachelor's, so I would tell you to reach out to the recruiters through the forms, and you can have a conversation about the roles that might be available for you, Darnell. Shonda is asking, what is the difference between strategy analyst development program and technology development? Oh, someone's been on the website. So strategy analyst, actually, I don't want to make it up. I kind of know half of the answer. Nancy, I'm like, there's probably a recruiting answer that's better than my made up answer.
I don't know if we have anything better because we go off of you.
Oh, okay, got you. So I know that there's a TDP, it's called TDP, Technology Development Program, where we're intentional about making sure that we're equipping the people aligned to our technology practice with the right tools, be it, access to coding or access to, whatever certs that you need to do the work that we see as common in the federal government. And so that is much different than the strategy analyst, who's probably more aligned to the strategy or the management consulting portion, where they're sitting with the CISO, doing the design thinking, understanding how you get through the agile methodology. So that's what I would say between those. Yes, there's a difference, and it's based on the level of technology and how you're using it. Are you talking technology and trying to figure out how to shape technology within an environment, or are you actually implementing the technology either through O&M or developing a major system or a major enhancement, things of that nature. Kareem asked, what is the value of AI at Accenture Federal Services? It is amazing. I love that there are horizontals and artificial intelligence, and they're taking that artificial intelligence and applying it in different ways based on the, I'm getting excited, based on the folks that we're working with. So at TSA, AI might mean how you're navigating someone quickly through an airport, through the interactions that an international airport, and how you're navigating a group of people or users of systems through using AI, when versus AI for like a typical like O&M background type federal government, like boring financial system or something like that. They might be using it to kind of manage or maximize efficiencies within a particularly repeatable process. Think about that mission assurance. You've got to go through the ANA process. You've got to do it every 3 years. Well, how about we use a chatbot and we, add some AI to it? And, these questions are always asked. They're always going to be asked in this same way every 3 years. Is there a way that we can get smarter about answering those questions quicker, creating a bot to do the work for us so that we can save time to do it? So yeah, it is a big deal. Everyone's trying to figure out how to use that and other technologies within AFS. Let's see here. Ant is asking, is there any tips you can share regarding succeeding in the Accenture interview process? From my personal perspective as an interviewer with Virginia Tech, I love it when you're prepared. I love it when you know about my company and you've actually done some work on your own to figure out what you think would be of interest to you in the company, and we're having a conversation that's a little bit deeper than your skills, but how you can apply your unique skill set and your unique personality to a particular agency or to a particular technology. So I do like when people have done their homework when I'm going through an interview process. Nancy, I don't know if you have anything from your perspective as people go through this skills interview or anything like that.
Absolutely, that's really important. One of the things as a recruiter we try to do for you is not just give you the job description, but give you an idea of the program and also the team. That's so important. So I know it's just so cliche to say, but be your genuine self on this, because it's just the best way to be, and the team can accept you better, feel better with you, and work with you, and find out your desires and needs and wants too. It's not just about them, it's also about you and how you fit.
Oh, I love that, Nancy. And it's such a good plug. A couple of years ago, Accenture started this kind of truly human initiative. You can Google. What I would tell anybody who's interested in learning more about Accenture, you can Google on YouTube, because sometimes you just don't want to read, you just want to watch stuff. They've got some pretty amazing videos about technologies we're implementing, but then also the people side of things, where you can see things about how we're doing inclusion and diversity, how we're being, truly human, how we're making sure that people are bringing their truly human selves to work. So is it, me and my natural hair that I'm bringing to work, or is it me with my kids that are probably about to go into the, into the kitchen and try and find something to eat behind me? Like, what is your truly human self? Not your unprofessional self, but making sure that you're able to bring your full self to work every day. We're being really intentional in some of the things that I see coming up and making sure that people can do that. Awesome. That's exciting. Let's see here. Idris, I think this is where we are. Idris, during your time at Accenture, what moment made you realize this is a company I want to be in for a while? When they gave me stock options. They gave me a discount on my stock. Like, how can you not? Like, Accenture is doing great in in the stock field, but more importantly than that, I'll tell you about the first experience I had when I first came to Accenture. I came from a very conservative Big Four firm, like I talked about, and what I came into as an accountant who had been among many accountants coming into like an information assurance world was that people wanted to see and hear input from me as an accountant who had done financial statement audits in the past. They cared about my opinion. They cared about what I could bring to the table, and we all sat at the table. It was the combination of a person with a psych background combined with, someone who'd been working in the SOC, combined with someone else who was in mission assurance, and me, an Oracle developer, and then me as an auditor. We all brought something unique to the table, and I loved, and it was so refreshing. I'll never forget that first day where it wasn't, this is your job and this is what you're supposed to do at Accenture. It was, this is the problem that we're having a hard time solving. What do you think about us solving this problem? What can you do to help us? And I promise you, I've only been on 3 or 4 roles since I started with Accenture, but every situation I've been in, it's here's the blank piece of paper. Here's the situation we're trying to solve. How can you help us solve this problem? That is refreshing, and it's looking at me beyond. It's looking at me like from a truly human perspective. I love that about Accenture. It's the people. People always say that, but it's legit the people. I love it. I love being here. Okay, Kareem is asking, what are some of the community outreach initiatives that Accenture participates in? So we've got this really cool thing called Accenture Day of Service. I think you can see it on my LinkedIn because I've tagged a couple of people. So it's where you get to pick like what Accenture does is we put our pencils down for the day, and normally it's on a day where it's like a federal holiday where we're not going to bill the client for any work anyway, like we're off. So you can either take the day off and just kind of be by yourself, or you can sign up for what's called the Accenture Day of Service. And there are literally hundreds of programs where you get to choose from, where you can do things like I'm aligned to the March of Dimes community, where we made like special gifts for moms of NICU babies and nurses of NICU babies to encourage them, to pre-COVID painting houses, to helping out with all these different types of organizations, and being intentional about, doing that community service has been amazing. this week actually is a big week for us because this is the week that we actually do Hour of Code, and we're doing it virtual this week, where we have a group of folks within Accenture who are going out into schools virtually to kind of help and teach them about how to code and different ways to code. So lots of community service, and I mean, just tons. You could even be an ambassador for something that's close to home for you. I could go on for days about that, Kareem, but yes, lots of outreach. Okay, take a couple more. Kareem asked, what, oh, no, Akila asked, does Accenture have relationships with cyber defense programs from universities for recruiting purposes? Um, in my mind, I think we do, but Nancy, any input from a recruiting standpoint on this question?
Yeah, we absolutely do. We actually have a university division of recruiters that go out and obviously hunt, search, meet, greet for everything in Accenture, including intel, cybersecurity, defense, any of that. Each program it's a set of recruiters that do that and go out on campuses.
Good deal. And I think the next two questions are for you too, Nancy. When can we expect to hear back from recruiters?
This is such a tough call. Obviously, as Accenture, we get so many applicants. We do try to reach out to everyone that we can. It's hopefully our goal is to try and reach out to you within 24 hours of getting something from you. It doesn't always work. Once you do hear from a recruiter, though, that reaches out to you, we will try and get you through as quickly as possible to that first interview stage. Once that is a much faster process than actually going through the applications and reaching out. But we try not to ignore anybody. We never close a job without making sure we look at every single resume that's been sent and see if we can use them for other positions. We have what's called a hot list of people that we couldn't place, but they're just so good and we would love to have them work for us, that we blast it out to all our PMs and all our managers and say, hey, these are fantastic people. So we do everything we can to try and get back to you and work with you as quickly as possible.
Awesome. And this next question, for someone with a clearance and most interested in remote opportunities, is there flexibility with days required to be on site?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Even prior to COVID, we did work, and a lot of it, understand again, since we are Accenture Federal, it's what the government with that particular department sees fit. But very much so before COVID started, they were willing to do at least 1, 2 was usually the average, 2 days remote. So yes, that's definitely an opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for staying on, Nancy. All right, yeah, Hour of Code. That's awesome. I had my first experience with it last year. We actually went into a school pre-COVID, and it was so much fun. I don't know if they got much out of it, but it was fun for me. It was really cool. I was overwhelmed because I'm not a typical coder. I graduated with I'm not really a coder, but I was able to do enough to be savvy, and it's not super intense, I don't think. So thanks for your comment, Kareem. All right, so we are at 7:17, and we have made it through all of your wonderful questions. Again, BIC has dropped the recruitment contact form in the chat, as well as provided it with you, provided via email. Please reach out. We want to hear from you. We are excited about our partnership with BIC. And I just want to say, if you have any questions or if there was something that resonated with you that you wanted to talk about, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. I might be a little bit slow. I don't always check my LinkedIn, but I will do my best to get to you. And I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me and the Accenture team.